He lost his job for helping a homeless woman, but what happened next will absolutely shock you. This isn't just a story, it's a powerful reminder that sometimes the universe has a funny way of rewarding kindness when we least expect it. Meet Michael, a young man with a heart of gold, working a dead-end job as a waiter. His life was pretty ordinary, just trying to make ends meet. Every day on his way to work, he'd pass by an elderly homeless woman named Alejandra. She was always sitting in the same spot, clutching a tattered blanket, with a look of deep sadness in her eyes. While most people just walk by, Michael couldn't. He started bringing her a hot meal every day, using his own meager tips. They would chat, and he learned bits and pieces of her life, though she was always hesitant to share too much about her past. This small act of kindness became the highlight of his day. One rainy afternoon, Michael noticed Alejandra looked exceptionally frail and was shivering uncontrollably. He knew he couldn't just leave her there. So, he made a split-second decision. He helped her up and brought her into the warm restaurant where he worked, sitting her down at an empty table in the corner. He just wanted her to get out of the cold and have a proper, warm meal. But his manager, a stern man named Mr. Henderson, saw this and was furious. He stormed over, yelling about restaurant policy and how her presence was bad for business. Michael tried to explain, pleading for a little compassion, but his boss wouldn't listen. In front of all the customers, Mr. Henderson fired Michael on the spot and threw both him and Alejandra out into the street. Humiliated and now jobless, Michael felt a wave of despair wash over him. He had lost his only source of income just for trying to do the right thing. He sat on the curb next to Alejandra, his head in his hands, wondering how he was going to pay his rent. He had hit rock bottom. Alejandra, seeing his distress, placed a gentle hand on his arm. With a quiet voice, she apologized profusely, blaming herself for his misfortune. Michael just shook his head, telling her it wasn't her fault and that he'd do it again in a heartbeat. Right then, he knew he still had to help her. He used the last of his cash to get them a room at a cheap motel for the night, just to ensure she was safe and warm. The next morning, as Michael was trying to figure out his next move, Alejandra finally opened up to him. She confessed that she wasn't just any homeless woman. Years ago, she was a successful businesswoman who owned a thriving chain of boutique hotels. But a series of devastating personal tragedies and betrayals by a trusted business partner had left her with nothing. She lost her family, her fortune, and eventually, her home. She had been living on the streets for years, too proud and too broken to seek help from the few distant relatives she had left. Michael listened, his heart aching for her. Her story was almost unbelievable, a stark contrast to the frail woman sitting before him. As she spoke, she reached into a small, worn-out pouch she always carried. From it, she pulled out a single, old, ornate key. She explained that it was the master key to the very first hotel she ever built, a place she named the Serenity Inn. She had kept it as a reminder of who she once was. She handed the key to Michael, telling him that his kindness had reminded her of the goodness in the world, something she thought she had forgotten. She made him promise that if he ever had the chance, he would visit the hotel for her. Michael, though touched, saw it as just a symbolic gesture from a woman lost in her memories. He pocketed the key, promising he would, though he had no idea how he'd ever get there. Over the next few weeks, Michael dedicated himself to helping Alejandra. He used his time to navigate the complex social services system, trying to find her long-term housing and support. It was a frustrating and slow process. Meanwhile, his own financial situation was getting dire. He was applying for jobs everywhere but facing rejection after rejection. The eviction notice on his door was a constant, terrifying reminder of his reality. Doubts started to creep in. Had he made a huge mistake? Was his compassion going to leave him homeless too? One evening, while scrolling aimlessly online, he decided on a whim to search for the Serenity Inn. To his utter surprise, it was a real place, a beautiful, high-end hotel in a nearby city. Curiosity piqued, he dug deeper. He found an old news article about the original owner, and there she was, a photo of a much younger, vibrant Alejandra, standing proudly in front of her hotel. It was all true. But then he found more recent articles detailing the hotel's decline since it was taken over by a large, soulless corporation. The hotel was struggling, losing its charm and its customers. It was up for sale. Suddenly, an idea, a crazy, impossible idea, sparked in Michael's mind. He looked at the old key in his hand. What if this was more than just a key? He spent the next few days researching everything he could about Alejandra's old business empire. He discovered that when she lost her company, the legal battle was messy. There were loopholes, forgotten clauses in old contracts, and fine print that her predatory partner had overlooked. Specifically, he found a clause that stipulated that the original owner retained certain heritage rights, which had never been claimed. Armed with this sliver of hope, Michael did something bold. He found the contact information for a junior lawyer who had once worked for Alejandra's firm, a man who had always been loyal to her. He reached out, explained the situation, and shared his findings. The lawyer was skeptical at first, but intrigued. He agreed to look into the old case files. A week later, the lawyer called back, his voice filled with excitement. Michael was right. There was a legitimate legal pathway to challenge the current ownership and reclaim at least a portion of Alejandra's assets. The key she had given him wasn't just symbolic. It was a physical piece of evidence tying her directly to her original ownership claim. What followed was a whirlwind legal battle. The corporation that owned the hotel fought back hard, trying to dismiss the case as frivolous. But with the lawyer's expertise and Michael's tireless efforts gathering evidence and supporting Alejandra, their case grew stronger. The story even caught the attention of the local media. Fired waiter fights for homeless woman's lost fortune. The public was captivated. People were inspired by Michael's selflessness and outraged by how Alejandra had been treated. Support poured in. A crowdfunding campaign started by the journalist covering the story raised enough money to cover their legal fees. During the trial, Michael's former boss, Mr. Henderson, was called to the stand. His testimony about firing Michael for an act of kindness painted him as a heartless villain and inadvertently made Michael and Alejandra's story even more sympathetic to the judge and the public. In the end, the court ruled in Alejandra's favor. It was a stunning victory. She didn't just win back her hotel. The ruling reinstated her control over a significant portion of her original company, worth millions. The first thing Alejandra did after reclaiming her fortune was not to buy a mansion or a fancy car. She turned to Michael, her eyes filled with tears of gratitude. She told him that he was the son she never had and the hero she never knew she needed. She didn't just offer him a reward, she offered him a partnership. She made him the new general manager of the Serenity Inn, giving him full creative control to restore it to its former glory, with a handsome salary and a stake in the company. Months later, the Serenity Inn had its grand reopening. It was transformed. Michael, using his innate sense of compassion and service, had turned it into a place known not just for luxury, but for its warmth and heart. He implemented a second chance hiring program, employing people who had fallen on hard times, just like he and Alejandra had. The hotel became a symbol of hope in the community. And as for Mr. Henderson, his restaurant's reputation plummeted after the story went public, and it eventually went out of business. Michael's life was completely transformed. He went from being a jobless waiter on the brink of homelessness to a successful hotel manager, all because he chose kindness over indifference. He didn't just get a new job, he found a new purpose and a new family in Alejandra. Their story is a powerful testament to the idea that no good deed, no matter how small, is ever wasted. Sometimes, when you help someone up, you end up lifting yourself higher than you could have ever imagined. So what do you think about this incredible turn of events? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story inspired you, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more amazing true stories. Thanks for watching.